It's springtime here in the Northwest, usually about time to get that sunroof open. And this always seems to happen when you start out a new season, okay? You open the sunroof, just like this 190E here, opens halfway, and look at that, stuck. And maybe it opens, but it opens very slowly, okay? And look at the air dam here. The air dam is sticking and not even popping up. So this is the time you want to take care of your sunroof. You want to lubricate the mechanism. And I see this so often neglected that I just can't even count how many times I've had to deal with problems that all come back to lack of lubrication. So I'm going to have to get after this 190E. If you ignore it, or the owner of this car ignores it, does not want to take the time or pay the money to have it properly lubricated, it's going to end up suffering from stripped cables, stripped teeth in the motor. It's going to have bent or broken angular arms, and then the costs are going to get really high. So I'm going to try to encourage you to think lubrication on these sunroofs. We're talking here in this video about those tilting sunroofs. These are the ones that, they'll tilt up in the back and then go down and then retract underneath the roof, that were manufactured from about 1986 up to 1995. The reason I'm stopping at 95 is because my video series that I have on my website does not get into the W140 and it does not get into the W210. The videos I have are specific to the W201, W124, and the W126, once again with the sunroofs that tilt. Now what I want to do next is I've got a bunch of parts out here and I want to demonstrate some of the problems you're going to have and illustrate why people have problems with these tilting sunroofs. Once you get into one of these, you'll marvel at the engineering that went into getting this thing to work properly. It's quite amazing. I want to start out by showing you this angular tilting arm here. Look at the monkey motion that this thing goes through. Now this one is stuck, so it's not moving back like I would like it to. But look at how much junk has collected down in here. And the felt pads, there's a felt pad here, a little roller there. There's felt pad here and a felt pad in here. They're all super dry. There's absolutely no lubrication in this right here. So can you imagine, there it goes, now it loosened up a little bit. So this is how, it goes back and forth and flips up and flips down, and you're thinking, wow, that's really something. Yeah, it's really something, until this gets damaged. The number one thing I've seen with these is they get bent. You'll sight down them this way and you'll realize it's all bent out of shape, and that's because it's being forced due to lack of lubrication. And then they tend to break. They tend to crack right into these weak points here. But you can see that this mechanism here takes some real understanding in how to get this out and take it apart, lubricate it, and get it back together. You'll also notice there's a number of other issues you're going to be dealing with that you don't have in those older non-tilting sunroofs. Here you have, this is the water dam that collects the water at the back of the roof. This is called a transport bridge. This moves back and forth, and this is what is attached to those angular tilting arms. So as this moves back and forth, this is what controls when the roof closes and then when the roof tilts. And of course the drive cable is attached right here. And then finally, take a look at this. Oh, one other thing, I want to show you some of the other felt pads that you may have to deal with. These are up front. And you can't, once again, you really can't get to these to clean them. They get all gummed up and gooed up on here, and you can clean this felt and re-lubricate them. There's plastic slides. Look at that plastic slide, how that grease is just dried up almost like tar. So all those felt pads and all the joints need to be dealt with, need to be cleaned and properly lubricated with the Mercedes sunroof grease. And then here is the motor, okay? Look at that. Looks a little different. Now this part, the transmission drive assembly and the actual motor, is almost identical to what you saw in the 1985 and older models. But you get into this mechanism up here, here's this little knob thing, and here's another camshaft. You got micro switches here. You have a relay here, and this can get really confusing. This, by the way, all this mechanism plays a key role in communicating with the sunroof, okay, via the cable to know when it should close and stop. And then, of course, when you flip the switch to go into the tilt mechanism, if that's not working, sometimes there's a problem right in this area here. I think you saw a real good illustration why it's very difficult to properly lubricate these sunroofs unless you take them apart. At least you have to take the roof panel off. And a lot of times, you'll have to take those angular tilting arms out because they, over the years, you know, we're talking 20 years, you get all that factory grease dries out and becomes like goo, plus you get dirt and needles down in there, and you can't just lubricate it by squirting some lubricant down in here. Obviously it's going to help a little, but long term, if you want smooth, reliable operation of your roof mechanism, you're going to have to dig in and go after these angular tilting arms and the felt pads. There's really no way you can clean those felt pads without removing the roof. So you say, well, that's a lot of work. Yeah, okay, it is a lot of work and you've got an option. It's your call. But I can remember the first time I picked up the factory manual. I was having problems with a tilting sunroof in my wife's 300E, and I'm sitting there reading the manual and I'm going, what? You know, it's like, I don't even know what they're talking about. I'm a college graduate. You probably would have had to have worked on one of these before and be familiar with it to understand what the manual's even talking about. And I think at that point I decided, okay, I'm going to learn how these work. And a lot of it was trial and error. A lot of it came from taking things apart and repairing parts, replacing parts, cables, motors. You know, if you've worked, by the way, if you've worked on the older sunroofs, the non-tilting, and you get into these tilting roofs, you're going to see a lot of different things, just like you saw earlier about this. You're saying, what in the world is all this monkey motion going on the front of this transmission drive assembly on the sunroof motor? And of course, the angular tilting arm is totally different. So the older 1985 and older non-tilting roofs are really easy to work on compared to the tilting roofs. So I decided, originally I was going to write a manual, a lengthy manual, and I said, this is going to be a huge manual, so I decided to do a video manual series instead. I want you to understand it's available on my website. It's 6 parts, almost 2.5 hours long, and one part specific to this sunroof air dam covers a lot of models, so that's a separate video, but a lot of people are having problems with this air dam not closing properly when the roof will run into it, or it doesn't come all the way up, or it flops up and down. And if you're having problems with this front air dam, then I recommend you watch that video. It shows you how to take it apart, how to fix it, how to lubricate it, and get it back in properly and adjust it. So number one in the video series is just how to get the panel off the roof of the car, okay? That's not as easy as you might think. And I even include how to get the sunroof panel off if the sunroof won't open. Now, if you go to the factory manual, of course, it tells you open the sunroof, do this, do that. And some poor guy says, well, my motor's not working, or my cable stripped, I can't get the roof open. And if you can't get the roof open, you can't get the cable out to fix the motor, and on it goes. So I have a section in part 1 that goes over emergency panel removal when you can't get it open. And then in part 2, I spend a lot of time talking about these angular tilting arms, how to remove them, how to repair them, how to lubricate them, what you do with the felt pads and the little roller bearings that are on these pieces, and then getting them back on. Now, this is another thing I found about the factory manual. The 201 specifically, the manual says, oh, just unbolt this and just lift the angular tilting arm out. And I'm going, what? It doesn't happen that way. There's some real tricks, and the 201 is very tight to get these arms in and out, and it requires some steps that are not, by the way, covered in the factory. In part 3, I cover the cable, the drive cable removal and replacement procedures. This is getting the cable out of the tube that runs all the way back to the trunk, getting it out of there, getting it clean, getting it properly lubricated, and replacing it, okay? And This isn't as easy as you might think, particularly if the cable's damaged. So I have an emergency procedure, a section in that video that covers how to get a damaged cable out. And then in part 4, we really get into this right here. The motor, transmission drive, and all this mechanism up here, how to inspect it, how to take it all apart, how to lubricate the teeth and, and get it back together properly so you can get it back in the trunk. There's a number of critical steps that you'll need to do in order to work on this sunroof motor right here. And then finally, the final part is once you work on these and you get them repaired, there's going to be some adjustments. There's adjustments, of course, here at the motor drive assembly. There's adjustments on the roof panel. There's adjustments here. And to get the roof actually closing properly, I think you'll find that last part, part 5 in my video series, very, very helpful if you need to get that roof adjusted. Now, if you have a non-tilting roof, I also have some other resources available on my website. I have manuals, I have service kits, I have the proper lubrication. Once again, only use genuine Mercedes factory lubrication for these sunroofs, whether it's non-tilting or tilting. And if you don't know where to get it, you have to buy it from Mercedes in these very expensive containers. I think they're about $80. But we sell it in small containers on my website, which will allow you to get in and lubricate 2 or 3 sunroof mechanisms. So if you're interested in any of those video manuals, I will put them in the links below. You'll have to click on the Show More. Once again, you won't see them unless you click Show More. And it will take you to each one of the videos listed separately. And you can go to my website and learn more about each one. So I hope you find this an encouragement. If you're willing to roll up your sleeves and learn how these tilting sunroofs work, then you're going to find it a lot easier to maintain them and to also enjoy them.